If you Google any condition like cancer, like heart disease, like Parkinson or dementia or depression or whatever, you will find there's a connection to heart rate variability because the heart responds to demands from the immune system working hard on something. Just living in a very normal life these days is not normal compared to what we are evolutionary developed to do. And we have to take that into consideration because our brain system, our immune system, our whole physiology is ancient. And we need to move a bit towards that way of living, of sleeping well, 7 to 8 hours, of eating food that our digestional system can recognize as food, and not just this ultra-processed food that will damage us.
If we're training, if we're doing cardio training, I think most people are familiar with tracking that data, but perhaps not as familiar with HRV.
That's right. So you want a high heart rate variability, which is a sense that you have a good connection to your restful system. Also shows you has a connection to the immune system. So when you have a good heart rate variability, your immune system is working better, taking more care of your whole body. So my personal journey as a doctor is that in medical school, we didn't learn much about lifestyle and the impact on our health. We thought, okay, if you did everything right, you may live 2-3 years longer. But why bother? Because it would take you 2 or 3 years to do that, to sleep longer, to make your food, to go exercise, so why bother? Now we know that it's up to 24 years of extra time, according to a huge American study, that we can gain from having the right lifestyle.
Today, we are diving into a new approach to health that could be a complete game changer if you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed. Our guest, Dr. Torkil Færø, has over 25 years' experience as an emergency physician and GP. He has worked over 50,000 patients, which is roughly the equivalent of 1% of Norway's population. Over 100,000 consultations. He has seen firsthand how lifestyle impacts our health. Dr. Torquil also has experience in war-torn regions with Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders. In his latest book, The Pulse Curve, he explores how tracking HRV, heart rate variability, can unlock powerful insights into our stress levels, immune resilience, and energy balance. Dr. Torquil, welcome to the Charlene Gisele Show.
Thank you, Charlene. Very nice to be here.
Very nice to have you on board. And I'm really glad that we had the connection at the Copenhagen Health Week. And here we are now talking on the podcast. So thank you for talking to us about HRV. I was wondering if we could start there. For anyone who's not familiar with that concept, can you explain to us what it is, what it does, and why do we care?
Heart rate variability is the variation between heartbeats. So it's kind of looking at the heart rate with a magnifying glass, because it can tell you the state of your autonomic nervous system, whether you are in the parasympathetic restful mode or in the stressful sympathetic mode. And this is so important for our stress balance. And the way that the heart will vary between heartbeats, I should explain, because if you are in the relaxed state, then when you breathe in, then your heart rate goes up a little bit because to take advantage of the extra oxygen in the lungs. And when you breathe out, the heart rate slows down just a little bit because it will save some energy while there is a little bit less oxygen in the lungs. It's not so important, from moment to moment, but over a lifetime, this is very important. And if you're in the stressed mode, then regardless of whether you are breathing in or out, the heartbeat beats at a very steady pace, just like a metronome, like a clock. And this is the way the wearables, like the smartwatches and smart rings that we use today, can pick up the heart rate and see whether we are in the stress state or in the de-stress state. And that is very important because too much stress, or rather too little recovery, is so much of the reason why we get sick and why we underperform. If you are stressed all the time and are in the producing mode all the time without getting rest, you are not as productive simply. There's a big study by Anders Ericsson about the Berlin Philharmonics Orchestra, where you could see who are, the solo players, the front people, and who will be in the orchestra. What is the difference between the best performers and the second best? And this study showed that, those 10,000 hours, the famous 10,000 hours, but it also showed that they were the best at getting enough rest and sleeping and taking power naps. So having this balance between rest and activity is very important, both for health, longevity, and performance.
I think it's quite an interesting data to measure because very often we're familiar with our heartbeats, right? We're familiar, especially if we're training, if we're doing cardio training. I think most people are familiar with tracking that data, but perhaps not as familiar with HRV. So I just want to make sure we clarify things for our listener if it is the first time. When we are in parasympathetic mode, which is your rest and digest, your HRV will be higher than when you are in fight or flight, which is your sympathetic, then your HRV would be lower, correct?
That's right. So you want a high heart rate variability, which is a sense that you have a good connection to your restful system. So, which is also shows it has a connection to the immune system. So when you have a good heart rate variability, your immune system is working better, taking more care of your whole body. So that's so important.
So what about somebody who's working out? I know you're about to fly for the New York Marathon tomorrow. Very exciting. So I'm just wondering here, if we have somebody who is a runner or works out at the gym regularly, when you are entering maybe zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, your heart rate is going faster and faster. So what happens to your HRV?
When you exercise, your HRV will be very low. So measuring your heart rate variability while you're exercising is not so important. So, and it's important to use a heart rate to find the intensity of your workout. And most of the intensity, around 80% of the intensity, should be in zone 2. And that may be a surprise to a lot of people that think that, if I'm working out, it needs to be full speed, max heart rate. But that is not the way the professionals, endurance people train. They use probably around 80% in zone 2, and then the rest in the higher zone, zone 4 or 5. So that's important. So you can use your devices, your heart rate monitors, to track the intensity of your workout. But what is much more important is how your heart responds after the workout. Because you can have exactly the same heart rate in the workout, but afterwards, if you are overtrained or you have too much stress from other causes, your heart rate will be high for the rest of the day. And you need to balance the intensity of your workouts to your overall stress levels. So if you have a busy, hard day at work, then a busy family life, and then you go on a really hard exercise, and then maybe you take a couple of glasses of alcohol after the exercise, you will be in the stress state. And it's important to regulate the intensity of your exercise according to your overall stress levels. Too many people go into a burnout situation because they are working out too hard.
So if I am new to HRV, doctor, let's say it's the first time I'm listening to you right now and I'm starting my journey, when would be the greatest point for me to get a baseline? When would you want me to measure it? And when would you want me to track it again and again? Can you give us some ideas?
Yeah, so the far best option is to use the Garmin watches. And they will track your stress levels throughout the day, throughout the night. So you will have kind of a speedometer for the intensity as you speak in real time. So you can see that, wow, now I'm too stressed. It's like now I have a stress level of 57. That's quite good. But maybe at some other point during the day, I would see that, my stress level is 80. I need to calm down a bit. Maybe I need to take a breathing exercise to breathe slowly to calm myself down. Maybe I need to take a a cold shower or a cold plunge to do that, to do the same. So with the Garmin watches, you will get this speed in real time, but also measured throughout the day and night while you are busy living your life. Because the problem is that we don't really have this sense into our own system. We never needed this throughout evolution. So we have very good senses for any outward threats from animals, from enemies. So we have excellent eyesight, excellent hearing, and so on. But we don't have a good sense for our inner state. Whether I have 60 in heart rate or 85 in heart rate, I wouldn't know. I cannot feel that. It has never been needed throughout history to feel this sense. It would rather be in the way of the threats from the outside if we could feel this noise. So these wearables is kind of a substitute for a sense that we never needed to develop. So that's important to say.
And I know that you've tested a lot of devices, and many of my clients wear the Oura Ring. I'm one of them. I was wondering, can you give us a bit of a honest opinion on the different devices? I know there is Oura. Whoop as well is really good. We've spoken about the Garmin watch. What are your favorites if it comes to HRV specifically?
Yeah, so second to Garmin, I would say that both Whoop and Oura is good choices. It will tell you the overall state, how well you have recovered. It will give you an estimate in the morning of your readiness for the day, how well you have slept. So you can see kind of how much reserves do I have to use this day. And you should use it. You should stress. But you should take care that you are recovered enough to be able to stress that day and to use your forces. And the Oura Ring and the Whoop band and probably any smartwatch is good enough for that. They all measure this, the heart rate variability throughout the night. But it is a bit like you are going to the supermarket and doing a big shopping and you just get the total at the end. You don't know what caused this total. Was the meat expensive, or the eggs, or the milk, or the sweets, With the Garmin, and I'm not sponsored by them, but then you will see throughout the day, okay, the stress came between 2 and 4 o'clock in the meeting with a colleague that I don't really get along well with. Or the stress was after 4 o'clock when I had that big bar of chocolate, or after 8 o'clock when I had that 2 glasses of wine that I thought was calming me down, So you get an insight into what will make this total, the kind of the items that will be on the shopping list. So you're able to micromanage your body budget, so to speak. It's just like if you're running a company, you need to know what is coming in and what is going out, What is the income and what are the expenses? And this is what you get an insight to when you have the 24/7 monitoring that you will get, particularly from Garmin. You have some rudimentary statistics on this also from Whoop and from Oura, but not the same quality as Garmin has. If you have an Apple Watch, there's an app called Athletic, which is quite similar to the Garmin one. So it's the combination between athlete and athletic. Then you can also see something a bit similar to the Garmin one.
You've just spoken about this notion of body budget, which I really love. That's something that I really appreciate about your work, that notion of body budget balance, and specifically how you talk about incomes, your sleep, your rest, and how you talk about expenses, stress, activities, obesity, disease. Can you tell us more? So tell us about the concept and tell us what are our most common incomes and what are our most common expenses.
Yeah, so if you go to the expense side of things, so the ones that I meet as a general practitioner, they will be overweight, undertrained, eating fast food and ultra-processed food. They will not sleep enough. They will drink more alcohol. These kind of things, and of course be mentally stressed. They will have bad relationships. So all this will be taxing your system, being a load on your system. And I meet people, what I live off from being a general practitioner, giving me my income, that is those people who can check off a lot of those different factors. But on the income side, okay, if you are good at meditating, you are good at de-stressing, having some way to down-regulate your nervous system, you have good relationships, you are exercising in a good amount, you are outside in the sun, getting sunshine is really important. You are out in nature, you are not drinking too much alcohol, you are staying hydrated, you're taking care to have a good diet, you are using cold plunges, cold water therapy to dampen the immune inflammation. So that is on the income side. So if you have enough of this, then you will be in balance and you will be able to see it in the heart rate. So that's the trick. Everything that is bad for you will be visible in the heart rate. Everything that is good for you will be visible. Your heart responds to minute details long before you would know. I listened to one of your last podcasts where you were asking whether they would be able to find some signs of if you're in the verge of burnout. And these variables will give you clear signs way before you get into a burnout situation that you are taxing yourself too much here. You are not getting enough rest. And I'm sure on your Oura ring also you will see that at times, it will warn you, give you kind of a red recovery that now you are too stressed, calm down.
So when you have patients who are burning out, you see a low HRV, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the good thing is that they can see it themselves. Because otherwise you would need to go to your doctor, and usually people wait a long time before they go to the doctor. They hope it will turn out well. If they just wait a little bit longer, maybe they will get better. And they will have to go to the doctor to get the results. But here you will get the results in real time at your wrist. It's like Cristiano Ronaldo, the soccer player. He says that this is like having a doctor on your wrist. He's using the Whoop band, for example. He's using cold water more than 200 days a year as a way to dampen the immune response, to dampen the inflammation caused by the exercise. We can use it to dampen the inflammation caused by life in general, from poor nutrition and so on. We can use the cold as well, which is what most people find is very, very potent tool to get their heart rate variability better.
So, doctor, at this point, I'm curious. Let's say that I'm one of your new patients, right? And I'm walking into your clinic. Maybe my name is Kim. Let's take an avatar, right? So it's not me right now, the host of the podcast. I'm Kim. I'm really busy. I'm super stressed. I'm coming in. How do you measure my HRV? Are you going to first send me home, get me to buy one of the watch or one of the measuring devices and come back to you with data? Or do you have the device in your clinic to measure my HRV? And also, what if my HRV is bad today, but it's good tomorrow? When would you know, okay, this is chronic, this is something that needs attention? You're not just having a bad day, you're having a bad lifestyle.
I would need you to have a smartwatch or an Oura ring. So I would, of course now I can see when you come to my office that you have a smartwatch of some kind. It could be an Apple Watch, could be a Garmin, it could be anything, or I could see that you have a ring. Then I understand that you are really into it. If you have the ring, there are many rings these days. You have a Samsung Galaxy ring, you have the Oura ring, you have a Norwegian ring, you have many different kind of rings. And then I would ask to get your phone and get into the app, or ask your permission, of course, if I can. And then I can see that your heart rate variability over time. I can see that the last month, and I can see, go back, throughout the whole year, and I can see, okay, is this your usual baseline HRV, or are you in a worse situation now than you have been? And because maybe I could see that in the summer it was better because of the sunshine, which is very common, that at this time of the year, for example, on my Instagram, I get lots of questions. Why is my heart rate getting worse? I'm doing exactly the same and it's getting worse. Okay, it's a lack of sunshine, because the sun is very important. for our blood circulation and our mitochondria and, to improve the overall state. And it could be other things. Maybe I would be able to see that it's the period. If you have strong PMS symptoms or PMDD, the more serious kind, where it becomes, you cannot get to work and such things. Then I can see that your heart rate variability is low in that PMS period, for example. And I can see often that this dip in heart rate variability is as deep as having COVID infection. So for so many women, and probably particularly, in working life, they will have, for the week before menstruation, a demonstrable physiological load on their system. So the PMS is not just a feeling that you're feeling so-and-so, it's a physiological stress on your system. And once you're able to see that on your speedometer and you're able to, not exercise so much for that week, take care to sleep better, drink less alcohol, eat better, don't eat anything that will stress you, then you're able to mitigate that stress and relieve the symptoms of PMS, for example. So this is the way you can use the wearables to balance your stress levels and improve your performance. So, and of course, sometimes it's actually cancer, for example. There are at least 6 or 7 examples that people have seen their heart rate variability go down over time. They're kind of doing everything they have learned from the book, from the Pulse Cure, and it's still not good. They go to the doctor and, it's breast cancer or it's ovarian cancer or lymphoma or other things, because, as I said, the heart will respond to any demand. And of course, if you get a cancer and your immune system is working hard to battle with something like a cancer, it will be shown in the heart rate. And the heart rate variability, there's so much research on this. If you Google any condition like cancer, like heart disease, like Parkinson or dementia or depression or whatever, you will find there's a connection to heart rate variability, because the heart responds to demands from the immune system working hard on something.
So let's say on that particular day, Kim had a very, very stressful board meeting. Is it quite likely that if she had a watch and you were able to track that, you will see a lowering of her HRV during that board meeting?
Yeah, if she had a Garmin watch, yeah, I could see it clearly. I could see exactly. She would see in high, graphs that, your stress level was kind of 100 during that board meeting. And I could go back to the day before and see that, this is not your usual stress level. And then, of course, if she had the Oura Ring or the Whoop band, I would not be able to see that. Maybe the night afterwards, I could have seen it. Maybe. But maybe she was good enough to be able to calm herself down after the board meeting, and I wouldn't have been able to see it at all, that she was stressed in the meeting. So to optimize performance, you need to micromanage just as if you're a top athlete. You have to take care of the details. You would have to be able to see that in the board meeting, I was stressed at, let's say, just take a number, that my stress level was 90. That is what it would have been if I'm doing a lecture, for like 200 people. Then my stress level should be and will be around 90. And then afterwards, it depends on how fast can I calm myself down. And if I've been too stressed, it can take hours to calm down. But now, when I have the insight into my stress levels and I've seen that, my stress level was high, I can calm myself down, do some breath work, be aware of it, because what you can measure, you can manage.
Of course.
So it's so much easier when you see it and that you are able to micromanage this, so to optimize your performance.
I like to say, if you want to hack it, you've got to track it.
Exactly. And this is, of course, why why the book has been such a huge bestseller for close to 2 years now in Norway, and it's translated into 8 languages, because this way of having such an important window into your own physiology, into your own performance level, is just a game changer like nothing else. Not the athletes have used it for a long time. The US, the military has used it for a long time, because they are really dependent on professionals that can keep their calm and do their work, and not, if there's a war situation, you must keep your calm. If you get too stressed, you will make mistakes, and you may even shoot your own people, and so they have been in the forefront of this. But we that live normal lives, we can also learn from what they have discovered. And now, of course, with everybody using smartwatches, I think in Norway, around 70% of the population use smartwatches. They just don't know what they can get out of it. You can tell so much more than they may have thought. So now this is available to anyone, and with the help of artificial intelligence, the heart rate, they have millions of users, and they have artificial intelligence, and then they can tell you so much through the apps.
Yes, I find it interesting that you said, we who live normal life. I would potentially argue here that we don't live normal life. I'm thinking about peak performers in the corporate world. Being subject to that much stress chronically on a daily basis is not normal. But we do it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and then wonder why we had a stroke or a heart attack or any other kind of condition. And I would argue that it is not normal to be subject to that much stress over the course of a whole life. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And that is the extreme part of it. But just living in a very normal life these days is not normal compared to what we are evolutionary developed to do. When we put these trackers on hunter-gatherers that still exist today, and that is the lifestyle that our physiology and our brains have been developed through. And then they see that they are in moderate activity 2 to 3 hours a day. They walk 15,000 to 20,000 steps a day. When they're not doing that, they are relaxing. They are sleeping at the right time. It gets dark, you go to sleep. And so almost everything that we do in the modern day is too much stress compared to what our construction is built for. And we have to take that into consideration, because our brain system, our immune system, our whole physiology is ancient. And we need to move a bit towards that way of living, of sleeping well, 7 to 8 hours, of eating food that our digestional system can recognize as food, and not just this ultra-processed food that will damage us and make us sick. We need to move. We cannot sit all day and expect our bodies to do the same work as in the hunter-gatherer society, doing 15,000 steps a day. And we need to be into the sunlight, because our cells, and we know so much more about this now, what the sunlight do to our mitochondria, to the nitric oxide in our skin, and improving our overall function. And we need to be in nature, So once we can start to get a bit more of that, then we get healthier, and better performance as well.
I would love to talk to you about the connection between HRV and alcohol. And specifically, I was very touched to hear about your personal story and how you navigated periods of your life where you struggle with being slightly overweight, with drinking more than average, and you've really made powerful changes in your lifestyle. And you are now not only super fit, but super performant, about to run the New York Marathon. Can you tell us more? Because I think a lot of our listeners would relate to your struggles. We know that theoretically it's better to not eat ultra-processed food, not to drink, but we also have to take into consideration the fact that we're super stressed. And a lot of the time, that junk food or that glass of wine are going to be things that at least feel like they make us feel better, even though they don't. What has been your personal journey? Where were you? Where are you at now? And what is the impact on HRV, please?
Yes. So my personal journey as a doctor is that in medical school, we didn't learn much about lifestyle and the impact on our health. We thought that, okay, if you did everything right, you may live 2-3 years longer. But why bother? Because it would take you 2 or 3 years to do that, to sleep longer, to make your food, to go exercise, so why bother? Now we know that it's up to 24 years of extra time, according to a huge American study, that we can gain from having the right lifestyle, which is also what I can see in my work as a doctor. But I then used to do everything wrong. So all the mistakes that I am telling about in the book, I've done myself. I've done everything wrong. Out of ignorance and because we didn't think it mattered so much. As you say, I weighed 40 pounds or 20 kilos more than I do today. I did not exercise. I did not care what I was eating. As a doctor, I was working nighttime, a lot, evening, night, maybe the whole weekend through, almost without sleeping. And drinking alcohol, as I said, I was drinking 3 glasses of wine every day. That was recommended, until maybe 10 years ago. That for men, 2 glasses of wine, and for women, 1 glass of wine every day. And I thought it was good. I thought it would calm me down for the night. Of course, when you get the wearables, you see that the most stressful thing you can do is drink alcohol. And according to Whoop, that will gather information from their users or what they are doing, alcohol is by far the worst stressor. But you think it's calming you down, but during the night, the acetaldehyde that alcohol will be converted into in your body is so toxic, it needs to prioritize and struggle with, detoxifying the acetaldehyde, and it's a huge stress. For me, I can see that if I, for example, have 4 glasses of wine, it will be as hard for me as having a lecture 6 hours during the night. It's the same intensity for my system. So when I wake up, it's not just the feeling of a hangover, it's the result of 6 intense hours where my body is working in overdrive to get rid of the acetaldehyde. And when you see this, I must say that I haven't met anyone starting to tracking their system that has not cut down on alcohol.
I really want to pause there for a moment because I'm thinking about, our patient avatar here, Kim. She had that really rough day. She had the board meeting. She's coming home to her husband. She's put her kids to bed. And she really wants to drink wine to relax and unwind. And she thinks in the moment it's helping her switch off and calm down because she had such a rough day. But then she looks at her watch and she notices that her HRV was not as good as she thought her relaxation would be. So when do you get to understand that alcohol is actually having a negative impact on your life rather than a positive, calming, relaxing effect?
You will see it immediately the day after. And this is what one of the results that makes people trust the devices immediately. Because once they start taking a couple of glasses of wine and they can see the result on their watches, then they understand, okay, this is real. This is something that measures my state. Because when she would take those glasses of wine, if she then saw it just in real time, she would feel relaxed and her heart rate variability will be better with the alcohol in the blood. It is calming. It is releasing GABA in the brain. So you will feel calmer, which is why people have used it for anti-anxiety forever, for self-medication. So I can see that also on my watch that when I start drinking alcohol, I get into the parasympathetic mode, feeling mellow, feeling calm. The trouble comes during the night while you are asleep and just having this huge stress that goes under your radar because you are asleep. But the devices, they're not sleeping, they're counting your heart rate and can show you the exact load that this amount of alcohol caused your system. And it's kind of, it's a linear load. So one drink, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drinks will have a linear load on your system, so to speak.
So I just want to make sure I understand this correctly, because I know that my clients would ask themselves that question. So in the moment, let's say she's drinking wine for a 2-hour window with her husband. So in that moment, when she's feeling calmer, more relaxed, she may see a higher HRV in this window, right? Because she's entering the parasympathetic nervous system. Maybe she's watching her favorite movie with the wine, right? So we have a 2-hour window.
Yeah.
But then when she goes to bed and her body's processing the impact of the alcohol, that's when we would see a lowering of HRV. Is that correct?
That's where the stress comes. Yeah, exactly. So that is why we were fooled, and me also, So when I discovered this was actually before I started tracking my heart rate. It was when I was working 24/7 for 1 week at a time in a quite busy place. And so I would be woken up at night, maybe every second night, working the whole day through, from morning until evening. And after 1 week on watch, on call, I would have 1 day off and drinking a bottle of wine, to calm down and to have, my day off. And then the week afterwards, I would go back again to 7 days straight at work. And I would be more tired after the bottle of wine than after 7 days at work. And I just thought, okay, something's wrong here. 1 day off and 1 alcohol, and I'm more tired. And then I tested, okay, what about 2 glasses then? I tried the next time. Even that would make me more tired than 7 days continually at work. And then I understood that, okay, I need to skip this. I don't want to spend my energy on this when I could spend it on living my life, and performing that you really have to do as a doctor, of course.
And doctor, is there a safe dose? When it comes to HRV and alcohol, is there such a thing as a safe dose so that you have a little bit of the positive, relaxing effect and minimal negative HRV impact?
I think that's interesting because there's a very good podcast called The Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. And not so long ago, they had the medical responsible of Whoop on the podcast. And, they track their users. And he asked him the same question. Do you have any evidence that somebody will do well on any amount of alcohol? And Gisele said, no, we have not found that. So everybody will be somewhat stressed by the alcohol. But it's also it's a measure of balance here. So if there's a wedding, if there's a special occasion, I would also drink alcohol, particularly if I know that the day after I'm not going to do anything important. And then I just have to balance this. We don't need to be health optimizers. We need to be health normalizers. And then, of course, alcohol once in a while will not be so important. But the important thing is to know the budget so that you know that the physiological price of alcohol is this. The economical price is, 20 euro, but maybe you thought that the physiological price was 10 euro. And with the watches you see now, it was 100 euro, in physiological price, in comparison. So the important thing is to know the measurements, to know the impact, so you can take a qualified decision of what to do. That's the most important thing. So of course you can drink alcohol, maybe once a week or every other week or so. And as long as you know that, okay, I have to balance this stress with maybe relaxing more or sleeping more or something, then it's okay. And Whoop has also found out that it will take 5 days. So if you go out drinking, probably for example, 4 glasses of wine, it will take 5 days until you're back at the same recovery as before you were drinking. So it's a huge, huge impact, much more than people think.
And I like this idea of a budget because it's a bit like using a credit card versus making deposit into your bank account, right? So if you know you've used up your credit card, you've had those few glasses on Friday night, you don't want to really keep using that credit card at the weekend. So maybe you're going to compensate a little bit and think, okay, I've used my credit card quite a lot. Let me make some smart deposit here, and maybe you'll go for a sauna session, maybe you'll go for that long walk in nature, maybe you'll do a meditation at night, or maybe you'll do things to replenish your bank account, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the problem with us humans is that we can take this credit card, the physiological credit card that I often talk about, and use it so much until you are almost bankrupt. And it's kind of that we don't really notice ourselves so much. So until we suddenly collapse, suddenly the bank, calls you and say that, okay, you're bankrupt, and your debt is like so high, you're not able to pay it back, and that is what happens to so many people. They go into a collapse. They are getting themselves into a burnout situation, and stretching the line until it just breaks. You're totally collapsing, and it can take years to get back. And these devices, these smartwatches and Oura rings and so on, will warn you way before you get into that situation. It will. It's like in the car. It's like on the dashboard. You will get, okay, the oil lamp is just flashing. Your engine is running high. You need to go into the to the workshop and to the mechanic to fix this. And on our own bodies, we don't have that before the heart rate will tell you that you are under too much load.
I really agree. And I think that burnout, in simple terms, is physiological bankruptcy, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. You're bankrupt, and you need to pay it back. There's no other way. If you want to get back on your feet, you have a huge step to start. And if you start from the burnout state, then it's a lot harder than you would think. And that is when these devices really come into use, because they will show you how you react, because how your physiology is in the ideal state and how your physiology works in the burnout phase is two very different things. So these devices will be very individual and show how your state is. That's
So
very
going back
important.
to our patient journey, let's come back to Kim. Let's say she's burnt out. As it turns out, you've had a look at her HRV, and the outcome is that she's really navigating a massive burnout episode, but she wants to listen to you. She's going to take on board those small lifestyle adjustments. How long, roughly, will it take her to see an improvement on her HRV and to bounce back from burnout?
That can take a couple of months. So, and the important thing also is that I wouldn't have any other way of showing this than the heart rate variability. I could take all the lab tests. I could, take any radiological procedure and refer her to any specialist, and there's nothing that will show this except for the heart rate variability. No blood test, no nothing. That is why also a lot of people don't believe them, So because there's no lab tests, and the doctors we want to have measurements of disease, and we don't find that in the burnout. But the heart rate will see it. And then I would say, okay, now you need to take 2 months completely off. You need to take care of yourself and relax, sleep enough, go for walks in nature, and in 2 months, then you will start, seeing the results on your heart rate variability and your stress levels. So, and from then on, you have to build yourself up gradually until you will improve. Often they will be very frustrated because they want to get back their old function, But that function and that level of intensity is what brought them into this situation. So you also have to accept that I cannot have the same speed that got me into this. I need to have a better balance, a better more sustainable stress balance to be able to perform while keeping my health. And you can do that, but then you have to be really good at recovery. You have to be good at performing and stressing yourself, but you have to be just as good at recovery. And that is what people have not really been trained to do or been aware of. And of course, with these wearables, you can measure the recovery. You can see that you are in the parasympathetic state. You will see it on the Garmin watches. You will see it. You will get blue graphs. When you get into the sympathetic state, they will be yellow and orange, more intensely as the more stress you have. But you can see it that, okay, now I am in the parasympathetic mode, the restful mode. My body is recovering now. And of course, when you can see it, it's so much easier to be able to manage this.
And I love what you said there about the importance of recovery, but because I think for peak performers, especially, there is often a big crash. And I know that because in my work as a professional burnout advisor, I do work a lot with professionals who've been signed off on a burnout leave, on average, anywhere between 6 to 12 weeks. And the number one mistake that I see happen within that first week or so is the notion of, oh, I'm lazy now. I'm not doing enough. So let me drink more. Let me stay indoor. Let me just go and watch TV to feel, that kind of compensate for that overall exhaustion and that cumulative fatigue that I've been feeling for years and years and years. And actually, you then realize that they know how to perform. They know how to fuel this chronic stress, but they don't necessarily know how to recover or what active recovery even feels like or looks like. So you have to start from ground zero there and to really implement some holistic recovery strategy. Is that your observation as well?
Absolutely, exactly. So you need more time and you need more focus on recovery, and you need to know what you're doing. You need to learn to take control of your body. From the bottom up. And you may never have felt this kind of refreshness. I never knew before I started this my potential for feeling refreshed in the morning. You just thought it was normal, to feel a bit tired in the morning and be tired in the evening. So you had to relax and so on. So it's only when you get this, when you are able to optimize this, that you can see what your performance level could be. You wouldn't know.
You need to redefine your normal. Coming from the place of someone who was extremely burnt out and extremely stressed and navigating, general anxiety disorder, my normal was constant stress, exhaustion, and insomnia. That was my normal. That was my operating system. And it actually took me many years to realize that that is not normal. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way at all, because I'm talking about myself here, but you have to relearn what performance tastes like, feels like, looks like. And particularly my journey incorporating sports and athletic performance into my day-to-day performance. So not just intellectual performance, but also physical performance has really given me that notion of physiological feedback, because it's really hard to go on a good run if you haven't slept. You can kind of, go to a meeting and sort of work your way through, but if you're going endurance running and you haven't slept, that's going to be really rough.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard. Yeah, if you have a poor VO2 max, if you have a poor fitness level, and if you haven't been training and you have been sitting and just walking to your office and sitting in your couch at home, you will have a poor VO2 max, which is the indicator of your fitness level of how efficient your cells are metabolizing oxygen. If that fitness level is low, and I can see that on a lot of people, then everyday activities will be too hard. It's like you are driving a huge truck with a motorcycle engine, you know. And so you need to use the devices to check your VO2 max. And if that is poor, you're in trouble. If you're among the lowest 25% of VO2 max level, according to your age group, you're in very high risk of getting diseases, and you will be underperforming, not only in a physiological way, but also in your mind. Because having a better fitness level, the organ that has most use of that is your brain. To have efficient mitochondria that will produce energy to your brain and improve the connections in your brain. So, but if you have a poor fitness level, you need to take very much care of how intense you train, how intense your exercise will be. Because with that poor fitness level, if you go for a jog and go out running, you will get lactic acid very fast because you will be overcharging your mitochondria, your muscles. You will get lactic acid, you will feel like you have the flu, and you will be demotivated and you will stop. So you need to start really, really slow if you have a poor VO2 max level. And of course, if you don't know your VO2 max level, that's a problem. This is another example of you have to measure it to manage it. So what you can do with your good VO2 max, I think you probably have, 40 in VO2 max, maybe even more.
I got tested before my marathon. I had a very good VO2 max, but I have to say, doctor, that I didn't think about getting that test done back when I was, not practicing endurance sports. The first time it occurred to me was through my training journey because I was talking about it with my coach. But I don't meet a whole lot of lawyers, investment bankers, corporate executives, C-suites that go and get their VO2 max routinely checked as part of
Yeah.
their peak performance package, right?
Yeah. And then now, of course, the watches will give you your VO2 max. So you don't have to go on the treadmill and run with this mask to get your VO2 max, because from the pulse and the heart rate, the devices will give you a quite accurate. For me, it was just 0.5 difference between on the treadmill and from my Garmin watch on the VO2 max. So you can get it also from your watch. And of course, for you as a runner, it was important to know your VO2 max. But in my experience, a poor VO2 max will not only lead to that you will be exhausted if you need to run for 2 minutes after your bus, it will also make your brain perform worse. So in order to be able to have physiological reserves to do what you want, you need to have a good fitness level.
Doctor, that was a fascinating conversation. I've learned so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I really recommend reading the Pulse Curve. Is there anywhere else you would like our listener to connect with you other than getting your amazing book?
Yes, of course, the book they can get anywhere on Amazon. It's also an audiobook. A lot of people who listen to podcasts they like to hear the book instead of reading it. So you'll get it on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, anywhere. And I also have an Instagram page, Dr. Torkil, Dr. Torkil, and also have a website where you can see a 1-hour lecture where I tell about how to use the Garmin watches to be able to show this in practice, how it will be. So I think that's quite informative as well. So that's on the pulsecure.com, and that they can go and see that.
I sat through one of your lecture for 1 hour and I learned a lot from it. So thank you. I highly recommend it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. And good luck on your marathon. Let us know how you do.
Thank you. I will not run fast, but I wanted to. So I've never done it before. I've run a half marathon, but I wanted to run in New York and just know how it feels, to run for such a long time. I just hope I can make it. And
You
my
will.
aim, yeah, I hope so. But my aim is actually not to run faster than 5 hours. So I probably cannot do that anyway, but so I'm because if I have trained so much that I run faster than 5 hours, I will have trained too much for my general stress level. Because trust me, being a best-selling author is not good for your stress levels. Then you really need to pay attention to your stress levels. So it has
So
been
you
a
write
bit,
about
yeah,
that's the curse of success, right? You write
the
about
curse of
HRV.
success. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
you wrote a
So
book
the
about
last,
getting a high HRV, and that lowers your HRV.
yeah, no, I managed to keep the heart rate variability well, but I really needed to be good at the recovery, at getting the downtime, at regulating my speed. So absolutely. So the last 2 years has been like being in a tornado, So I'm just a normal doctor, usually. So then to find myself, on live TV and I've been on 150 podcasts or more than that for the last 2 years. And because this has really changed the way health is looked upon in Norway. And to take charge of your own health, because I would like to close with that, because what is the strategy of the healthcare system, almost anywhere in the Western world, is to wait until you get sick, and then the doctors and the healthcare system treats you very expensively. But now is coming, and the book, and also, as you know, in general, in kind of proactive medicine, okay, you can do things to avoid getting sick, and you can have control yourself. You can be the CEO of your own health, with these devices and knowing what to do. So it is a huge shift in the power in the healthcare business from the doctors and the healthcare system and into literally your own hands. And the good thing is that all the advice in the Pulse Cure, everything that you need to do to live more healthy, is free. So it's available to anyone. So and that's a good part about it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I hope that we can run together soon.
That'd be cool.
Let's make it happen. Thank you, doctor. Have a great day and a safe flight tomorrow.
Thank you, Charlene. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for spending your time with me today and listening to this episode. Remember to subscribe so that you can receive weekly updates. And if today's message resonated with you, please remember to share it with a friend, a colleague, or a loved one who could really benefit from this episode.